In 3, 2, 1. Hey, you, and welcome back to the podcast. Haven't uploaded in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Um, and that's also partially because I am late. We are uploading this on, let's see, what is this? Thursday, November 5th, instead of our scheduled Mondays. And the topic doesn't really make much sense anymore, but we're going to roll with it and we're going to follow along. So I had an idea. I wasn't doing any Halloween type episode just because, I didn't really feel like it was my realm for this year. Next year, hopefully we can do some sort of Halloween series. So I thought, okay, the next episode I have coming out is November 2nd. At least what it was supposed to be, November 2nd. And I could do an after Halloween aftermath type thing, which I was actually very, very excited about because it would have come out on November 2nd, which is perfect. And I wanted to do this episode of horror stories about Halloween, this real stuff that's happened, or stuff from the morning after Halloween, aka November 1st. Before we get into that stuff, I want to let everyone know that it is 12:48 in the morning. So I am recording this late at night because I don't want to delay it any longer and because I have the motivation to do so right now. So, you know what? We're going for it. I also wanted to let everyone know that this episode is actually the first of hopefully many that I am webcam streaming. What? Oh, whoops. I am on my computer webcam right now, and this entire episode is going to just be streamed on our new YouTube channel, or Hey You Podcast YouTube channel, which I think now with every single episode, I might, just stream, and that way we also have a video version. It's not going to be like a production quality type stream. It'll just be a webcam, with my computer webcam just looking back at me. But I thought, it might be interesting. Right now I'm sitting on my bed and you can see my window with shades down and then me, my wall, and I have some blue LEDs turned on. And I'm holding up a number for those of you on, the video version. If you're only listening to the audio, you just go listen to the video. The link to that YouTube channel I'll have down below in the description, or where whatever the episode description that I usually put in, I'll put in the YouTube channel's URL there. It's not a custom one yet, so it's just that long weird letter 1. But yeah, this episode is also probably not gonna have many. I don't think we're gonna take a break this episode. I think we're just gonna fly through. And basically what I'm doing is I'm just going to be reading stories that are on the internet. None of these, I'm putting a legal disclaimer here. I do not own any of these stories. I have no properties to any of these stories. I have no intent of gaining anything from these stories. I'm telling them because they were online and I wanted to share it with, viewers. All right. I'd say let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay. Real time. I am just trying to figure out how I'm going to. Okay, there we go. Okay. So the first one is this is a horrific story from Halloween, and it is kind of scary. Well, okay, I guess it's not kind of scary, but it is what, when people are like, oh, watch out for all the candy. And this is a trick-or-treater who died after being given cyanide-laced candy. Okay, it looks like it happened in Houston. And right here, I have a picture of a newspaper article from the Houston Chronicle. And it has the story behind it. Okay, here's the story. In 1974, 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien died on Halloween evening after eating candy laced with cyanide. But the story has an even more horrific twist. It turned out that the candy was poisoned by Timmy's father, Ronald, who was in financial trouble and had taken out insurance policies on his children. In addition to Timmy, Ronald O'Brien gave poisoned candy to 4 other children, including his daughter Elizabeth. Thankfully, none of them ate it. O'Brien was executed by lethal injection in 1984. That is scary. Just because it's your father. Okay. So this next one, it's called Mom Averts Danger. This is actually from Reddit. I'll give shout out to Reddit user Morena Peekins, please. Yeah. So, here's how the story begins. The scariest thing I've had happened while camping. So, I live in Eastern Oregon and my mom lives in Western Oregon. I went to visit her for the summer and she's very outdoorsy, so we decided to take the 1-hour drive from her city to the coast. We ended up at this free campsite at the top of the hill, huge foothills of the coastal mountains, about a 25-minute drive from the top where the campsite is to the bottom where the main road was. And we were the only campers there. Oh no. Add. we relaxed for the rest of the day, made food, etc. A truck full of men drive up the hill and talk with my mom. I don't know what about, wasn't suspicious at the time, and they leave us. Fast forward to the middle of the night. I wake up to my mom sitting straight up in the tent. I wake easily, so I heard her gasp and it woke me. As soon as she saw I was awake, she put her hand over my mouth because I was starting to ask her what's wrong. It was dead silent, and all of a sudden, you hear footsteps right beside the tent. The little flap that covers the zipper was even moving. Thankfully, my mom has quick wits and said very loudly, "Kenny, grab the gun." Kenny is my dad, although that doesn't matter. And mind you, he was not there, just his girls, like I previously said. They left. No harm was done. Thank the Lord for my mama. TLDR, 2 girls at a campsite alone, people outside tent in the middle of the night, and my mom pulled some badassery. That is... I'm not a girl, so like I can't be like, oh, I can't imagine that. But wow, the fact that those scares occur is just really, really fascinating to me. Okay, another story. This is from Reddit user Excrement Cranium, and it's called Ouija Board Knocks Back. In high school, my friends and I were messing around with a Ouija board one night. We had done it before and nothing remarkable had ever happened. We usually did it to try and scare each other or our girlfriends. We all thought it was a joke. That night, there was no one else home except the 7 of us, and we were all together around the board. One of the girls there wanted to try it. She had never done it before. This time was different. The board misspelled some of the words the same way every time. It gave answers that seemed really historically accurate for our town, things we neither knew about or cared about. Long story short, the spirit claimed it was a 10-year-old boy who had died on the property in the 1800s and was buried there too in an unmarked grave. My friend's house was on a farm in the edge of the town. We were all a little freaked out because the board had never been so detailed and consistent. However, we were skeptical, and we were all assuming one of us was trying to scare the rest. Finally, my friend asked if the spirit could do something to prove he was there with us. It went to yes and then spelled out KNOCK. Then the planchette stopped moving. We just all stared at it silently, and then there was a rap, rap, rap on the window right next to us. The lights were on outside, and there was absolutely no one out there. We never touched that effing board again. Wow. See, I never used a Ouija board before. It's not that I'm like terrified to use one, but like I am also like kind of terrified to use one. Like I, I believe in ghosts. Okay, I believe in ghosts, and I ain't want no ghost haunting me. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't want no ghost haunting me. All right. This next one is a long one, and it's about someone named Peter Fabiano. This is supposed to be a sinister Halloween horror story that really happened. Here's hoping that it's not too scary that I can't go to bed, but still a nice, scary story. All right. Peter and Betty Fabiano were just getting ready for bed when they heard the doorbell ring on October 31st, 1957. It was after 11 o'clock p.m., a little late for trick-or-treaters, but Peter reluctantly headed downstairs and grabbed the candy bowl. It was Halloween. What was one more kid? But when he opened the door, Peter got the shock of his life. On his doorstep stood a grown woman in blue jeans and a cheap mask, pointing the bottom of the paper bag at his chest. Upstairs, Betty Fabiano heard a loud pop, then the screech of tires as a car sped off outside. Racing downstairs, she found her husband on the floor in front of the open door, gasping for breath, blood pouring from a gaping wound on his chest. He was dead before they reached the hospital. Police were mystified. Peter Fabiano worked as a hairdresser in the San Fernando Valley. He had no enemies, at least none who would want to kill him. But the deeper they looked into the crime, the more twisted it all seemed. 2 weeks after the cold-blooded killing, police nabbed Joan Rabel, a 40-year-old who'd once been employed at one of Peter's salons. And for some reason, she was lying about being out the night of Peter's death. But not all liars moonlight as killers, and the cops had to let Joan Rabel go for the lack of evidence. Then, a month later, an anonymous caller directed police to a rented locker in the area department store. Inside, they found a .38 revolver, which ballistics matched to the bullet that had been found lodged under Peter Fabiano's heart. The locker wasn't being rented by Joan Rabel. However, it belonged to a woman named Goldine Pizer, who worked at a local children's hospital and had no connections with the Fabiano family. The clues were there, but none of them made sense, until Pizer began to confess. Goldine Pizer and Joan Rabel, it turned out, were lovers. For months, Rabel had told her about a man named Peter Fabiano, whom the latter called evil and vile. Rabel regaled Pizer with sickening stories of Fabiano and the way he abused his wife, and before long, Pizer began to hate this man she'd never met. She agreed to help Rabel kill him. With Rabel's money, Pizer bought a gun. Rabel drove to Faber's house, and Pizer, shaking so hard she had to use both hands to steady the revolver, put a bullet in Peter Faber. It says Peter Faber. Is his name Fabiano? And Peter Fabiano. I'm just going to read as is. Peter Faber's chest when he opened the door to give her a piece of candy. But why would Joan Rabel spend months seeding this idea of hate in Pizer's head? Simply put, Rabel had been sleeping with Peter's wife, and it seemed she just wanted to get him out of the way. At their trials, Rabel pleaded not guilty, and Pizer pleaded insanity. Both agreed to a plea deal for second-degree murder and life in prison. That's scary. Okay, that is actually very scary to me. Because, that's not first of all, that's not like a common everyday thing. Being like, oh yeah, I was sleeping with his wife and I was like, I want him dead. So now he's dead. Like, it's just not normal. Okay, I have a couple more shorter stories. These are more quick overview phrases. Okay. So this one's called The Suicide Mistaken for the Halloween Decoration. In 2005, a 42-year-old woman in Delaware committed suicide by hanging herself from a tree across the street from a residential area. Though the body was easily visible to passerby and passing vehicles, no one called the police for hours. Why? They assumed the woman swaying in the wind was a Halloween decoration. Oh my god, that's how they get you. Okay, this one seems really dark. The son who decapitated his mother and left her body in the street. Okay. One night in Long Island, just before Halloween 2014, a decapitated body laid in the street 5 feet away from a severed head. To many passerby, the horrific sight appeared to be a Halloween prank, but the truth was far more disturbing. 35-year-old Derek Ward had used a kitchen knife to kill and decapitate his mother, Patricia, then carried the body and head out of their apartment. After leaving the body and head in the street, Ward jumped in front of a commuter train, killing himself. I'd be curious to know the story behind it, behind him. All right, next one is the Japanese exchange student who knocked on the wrong door. 25 years ago, 16-year-old Japanese exchange student Yoshiro Hattori, sorry if I mispronounced that, dressed up as John Travolta's character from Saturday Night Fever, then headed out to a Halloween party in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Tragically, he was mistakenly dropped off at the wrong house, and the homeowner, panicked by this unexpected visitor, shot and killed Hattori. The homeowner was later acquitted of any wrongdoing. Hattori's mother, Mieko, sorry once again if I'm mispronouncing that, commented on the 20th anniversary of her son's death. I've been observing American society for the past 20 years. The ongoing situation there has been incomprehensible to Japanese. I want to encourage more ways to adopt gun control. Interesting. I'd be curious as to why that homeowner was like, oh my god, I need to kill him. I want to know, I wish I knew the context clues or the details, I want to know why, what was he doing that he was so afraid. I'm tired. Sorry. Okay, I'm gonna do I think 2 more stories. This one is called The Man Who Opened His Door to Find a Trick-or-Treater Who Would End His Life. In 1982, 69-year-old Marvin Brandland was getting ready for bed after a night of handing out Halloween candy when there was one more knock at his door. Brandon opened the door to find someone wearing a pillowcase over their head and the holes cut out for eyes. The figure said, "Trick or treat, give me your money or I'll shoot." He then pulled out a gun and ordered Brandon into his basement where Brandon kept his safe. The basement is never good. I know. I live in the basement. The basement is never good. Oh my god. I'm like crouching up scared. If you're like seeing like the video, I'm like, like crouching up scared. Like my shoulders are up and everything. I am freaked out. Um, Brandon, figuring this was a prank since only family members knew about the safe, grabbed for the gun. The person in the pillowcase fired, hitting Brandon in the throat, killing him. The killer fled, leaving the pillowcase at the scene. In 2010, the pillowcase was tested for DNA, but there wasn't enough DNA on it to make a match. That is scary. Like, how is this thing? That's why. Okay, trick or treating is guys. Trick or treating is dangerous. Like seriously, please be careful, cause it is dangerous. Like so many people, so many fake people. Like if you don't recognize someone, don't open the door. Seriously, don't open it. Don't engage. And honestly, if you feel like it's like too late at night, it's too late for them to get the candy. Leave it be. Just leave it. All right. One more story. It's called "The Boy Whose Life Was Forever Altered on Halloween Because of His Stepfather from Hell." On Halloween in 1984, 8-year-old Brian Massey should have been enjoying a night of trick-or-treating with his sisters. I'm going to pause right there. I just heard like the air turn on, and that was literally like so scary because I heard like a I thought for a second, and like I was legit like about freaked out. Okay. Anyways, on Halloween in 1984, 8-year-old Brian Massey should have been enjoying a night of trick-or-treating with his sisters, Tiffany, 11, and Tamara, 10. Instead, he was subjected to a real-life horror film with his new stepfather, 26-year-old David Andrews. Stabbed his mother to death before chasing his sisters down the hall and murdering them as well. Andrews then came into Massey's room covered in blood and kidnapped the boy. 2 days later, police found Massey alive and apprehended Andrews, who had tried and failed to kill himself. Disturbingly, Andrews struck a plea deal in exchange for a reduction of charges. He is eligible to be paroled next month, which the now 41-year-old Massey vehemently opposes. Okay, I'm sorry, but the system is allowing this wife and stepdaughter, two stepdaughter killer and kidnapper of stepson on parole? Uh, 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 Speechless, no words. And on that note, we are going to end this episode. This episode was a short one for sure. But I think that, we were able to tell some good stories and that, hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you did enjoy the podcast, please make sure that you like, rate, subscribe to the podcast. It really helps this podcast be seen by more people when you do so. Leave us a review. I'd love to hear your opinions. If you're watching the video version, please make sure that you also like, subscribe, comment on, the YouTube channel, and also on the podcast, like wherever you listen to your podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. You can find a full list of those at anchor.fm/heyyoupod. That's anchor.fm/heyyoupod. And that's also linked in the description as it always is. Yeah, that's all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time. You guys will hear me next time. However that is, whatever. Bye.